Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is a continuation of my videos on the DCUO test server. This is the Batman Metal Part 1 episode that is launching September the 12th. This is the second of two raids, Monsters of Metal. Now this one I'm actually excited to bring you because this is the raid that's actually the new environment. The other raid, False Idols, is very similar to recycled content, which you'll see when I release that, but this is the new raid, new environment. As far as I know, I think there's parts of Gotham that are technically recycled, but like you would never notice unless you actually like really pay attention. But it seems like this is the raid because technically, progression-wise, this is the second of two raids. It's just that I had video footage of this one, not the other one. It's not a huge deal. The only thing that ties it two together is the Sunblade. At the beginning part, you saw take the Sunblade. It's similar to, is it Artifacts? I can't remember. I think it was Artifacts. The raid during Amazon where you had to pick up those weapons and you couldn't actually DPS further until you had someone in the group had the weapon picked up to do some extra damage, and he grew twice the size to like brute size. So you need the Sunblade. All these little adds, the ice shardings, they can only be destroyed with the person has that Sunblade. It basically taps them, does some damage, they explode. And that's how you progress. If you don't have the Sunblade or that Sunblade person is not attacking those shards, they're just going to keep spawning. They're going to be eventually just going to overrun by like 15, 20 ads. So you can see, I'm pretty sure it was Tess Craig, that player. He's got the Sunblade on him. But you'll see what the Sunblade looks like later on. But you can't miss it. It's just it's got an icon for it. We have to pick it up. So essentially, just do damage on the ice shardings, explode them. The thing to note is the damage and the explosion from the ice shards do massive damage to your scorecard. So whichever DPS picks that up is pretty much guaranteed to be top by like 30 or 40 million. Not that that really matters to the raid. I'm just letting you know beforehand. Because the damage is quite intense on those Sunblade explosions. So essentially, the start of the raid, it is, as you can see from the video length, it is a bit longer of a raid. It's more so that the fights are a little bit tedious in terms of their duration. So we'll get into the first boss here, so Mr. Freeze. So essentially, I'll talk as much as I can over the actual boss fight, but I may, have music playing towards the end because I don't know if I have 30 minutes to discuss about the raid. So essentially, the first boss here, Mr. Freeze. I did read up on the storyline a bit, like you guys said. So I guess we've got Mr. Freeze is one of the villains that the Batman Who Laughs gave like a card to, and then it allowed Mr. Freeze to like warp reality to his own will. So that's why we have this encounter here. But to the actual boss fight, so Mr. Freeze is kind of encased himself in his like ice shard defense wall or palace or whatever it is. So what you do is you go along the outside and turn the gears on these fire lanterns. Now the issue is each time you start turning the cog, a golem's going to spawn, and you're out of line of sight as well. So the reason why it's nice to have two tank fights in this one, just because there's a whole ton of ads, as you can see on the other side. And on this side I get trapped because the tank's not on this side. So I'm getting lit up, trying to kind of run back here to where I'm in line of sight. But the thing is, this is one of those fights where if you're not doing the objectives, then it's just going to continue on forever. Like if you're not turning these cogs, the ads are just going to keep spawning, and you're going to get wrecked eventually or overrun. So the actual mechanic of this fight doesn't start until all those cogs are turned. So it is nice and thoughtful that they did get my res here. And now they're actually coming over to help me. So it's one of those things where I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work or play out on live server in terms of like pug groups. Because, if pugs are not running the objective, then it's going to suck. So basically they're, as you saw on the text screen, the charging ice giant. So the ice giant is the large one. You don't really want to kill him. I'm pretty sure he respawns anyway, but the ice behemoths you can kill. It doesn't matter. It's just something to do. They're not required to kill it for the actual boss fight to start. So what it is you have to line up the ice giant's charges. As you can see here, just skull attack, he's charging. You have to line it up so that he charges through those ice spikes. So Mr. Freeze doesn't come out and fight you because you can see he's kind of like shielded right now. he will not come out, and the boss fight won't actually start until the ice giant has charged through all those ice spikes. So once again, it can be a little bit tedious because if you're not trying to position him correctly, if you're not, see it right there, it says pick up Sunblade. Once again, the Sunblade doesn't matter as much in this encounter because there's not too many shardlings. But as you just an example there, you saw what the Sunblade looked like and what the text was, prompt was. Yeah, so what I was talking about before, if the tanks are positioning correctly, or if you're just like ignoring the ice giant, not trying to get him to charge, it's just going to drag on the fight. It's just, as you can see now, Mr. Freeze is out because we destroyed the ice spike. So you could easily add like another like 5-6 minutes to this fight if you can't get him to charge correctly, or there's some tank screwing it up, or an ad leading it away. So you just want to turn all those cogs at the beginning on the I'm drawing a blank what those actually are. Fire lanterns or goblets, whatever. Yeah, turn all the cogs right away. That releases where the ice giant will start to charge. Once he charges through all the ice spikes, Mr. Freeze comes out. Usually you'll have a second tank just kind of pull the ads away because they're not necessary to kill anymore, and it just becomes a fight with Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze himself isn't really spectacular at all. He does one move, as you just saw where that guy died. He does like a pull-in move where he just kind of yanks you in. Typical, if you remember Blackest Night with, no, is it Blackest Day? Yeah, Blackest Day with the Black Lanterns. One of the Black Lanterns had that pull that would yank you in one shot. Not one shot you, but do like a lot of damage. So Mr. Freeze has that. Besides that, it's just some AoE. He does a blizzard animation. So if you've seen ice and the blizzard supercharge, basically it's like, you can kind of see it right now in the back screen there, but it's like icicles dropping from the ceiling. They will encase you, which kind of makes it a little bit annoying for you to complete your rotation because you'd be ice blocked and you have to break out. And so it's just a matter of avoiding that as well. But as you can see, pretty quick fight if you have everything all together. This fight has the possibility to extend in length a lot depending on your group. Because if you're messing around not doing the Sunblade, or the person with the Sunblade is not attacking the shardlings, then that's going to be annoying. If the group is not turning all their cogs at the beginning, then that's going to be annoying. If they're not properly positioning the ice giant to charge to the ice spikes, that's going to be annoying. So it's just one of those things where, yes, it could be like a 3-4 minute fight. I think this fight was it 5 minutes? I think it was like 5 minutes something. 5 minutes and 13 seconds for the Mr. Freeze fight. So obviously, it's got potential to be a little bit faster in terms of damage, obviously. So it might be like a 3-4 minute fight. And this is regular, by the way. So it'll be regular, be in the title description as well. But in Elite, I'm sure it'll take longer. But in terms of the boss fight, if things aren't going your way, then it's just as easily could be 10-minute fight. So now we're teleported to the area of the map they call Overgrown Gotham. So Overgrown Gotham, there's parts of it that are taken which you'll recognize if you pay close attention, but obviously you can see from the layout design from it, it's completely different. It completely looks like Poison Ivy's kind of like changed that part of Gotham to, once again, she's one of the card holders, so she can warp reality to her whim, whatever, in terms of the Batman and last storyline. But as you can see, even if it's parts of Gotham, it looks so much different that you're not actually having that same, like, oh, this is recycled content, or like this is so readily available. So it actually looks really nice. I know out of what we have, the solo, we have the alert, and we have 2 raids in open world, and the only thing that is new is 1 raid. So we've had what? Justice League Dark came out. Was it May or June? I can't remember. But I think it's been about 4 months, 3 or 4 months at least. So I don't know what if you can expect them to have that much different content in that kind of period of time. Obviously, they have a lot of the design team is going to be relegated to time capsules and booster bundles and all these extra rewards. So it doesn't surprise me that we don't have that much new content. Maybe for Batman Metal Part 2, they'll kind of address those concerns, because it's not like I'm just beating a dead horse here. If you go on the forums, same thing. The first few comments about False Idols, which is the other Elite raid, or the other raid in this DLC, is, oh, it's just all recycled content, got really boring and repetitive. So obviously everyone is saying the same thing, so obviously they can kind of take on that. So to me, I said it last before, so it's really, it doesn't take much to do a bunch of like crazy, like this is parts of Gotham, but look, like they're like overgrown. They've got plants growing everywhere. They've changed the textures. There's ivy plants hanging off all the trees. So they're taking a section that already existed, like Gotham, but they're completely flipping it over on its head. So it doesn't take that much, I'm sure, to do this compared to like what they could have done to open world and just kind of mess that around up so it didn't obviously look like Earth 3 or Central City, so it didn't obviously look like Central City. I'm not expecting them, I would never expect them to do like completely new map design for every single piece of the DLC. I'm not expecting that like Origin Crisis was. So the beginning here, this is more just kind of like a sidetrack. You fight a bunch of ads, you free Deathstroke, and then you fight the actual boss, which is coming up here. So it just kind of ties to it being like a longer, drawn-out raid. I don't think you can skip the ads. I'm pretty sure you have to kill them. But at the same time, since they're little groupings, you could pull them all together. We didn't here. We just kind of take one group at a time. So it should be coming up to the Poison Ivy fight in a moment. Okay, so with the Poison Ivy fight, once again, this is going to be a fight that becomes a little tedious and repetitive. Now, that's mostly contributed to the type of debuff she has. So I'll let you know kind of the mechanics beforehand. So basically, you fight Poison Ivy. It's one of those things where you're going to need 2 tanks again, especially in Elite. But what it is you fight Poison Ivy, you kind of draw her to the backside. What she'll do, her mechanics herself, she's got this like massive defense buff, which I'm not entirely sure how that works yet and how that's lowered. It's kind of like Column Wrath, where he just kind of artificially take so long because you're only doing like 2k hits to him. As far as I know, there's not a way to drop that. At least I haven't seen anything yet. If there's a way to like just debuff her so she's taking like proper damage. But in terms of her main mechanic is she'll basically do this kind of like knockback explosion to push you back, and then she's going to walk to the center. You'll see her do her skull attack, and then there's a massive, pretty much in Elite it's going to be a one shot, I'm pretty sure. In regular it's massive damage. I block each time, but it's kind of obvious. Like she'll basically push you all back. She'll force herself to walk to the center, and then do her skull attack, and then is basically just an explosion. Her other mechanic is tied to her mind control. Actually, I think she's got 3. I'm not sure if it's in regular. I know it's in Elite. She's got, sorry, I just hit my mic. In Elite, she's got this Thorn Burst animation where it's a pink aura. She has a reflect on it. I didn't see that in regular, or it could have been in regular and just didn't do enough damage, so you have to watch for that as well. But I know it's in Elite. So in terms of her mind control, she's going to mind control multiple people. The thing is, tanks can get mind controlled. I'm not sure if the... I forget what that consumable is called from Atlantis. If it'll break the mind control. Obviously that's not on test server, so we can't try it. So right there, you kind of just saw her do that explosion. Now she's running towards the center. Now she's going to skull attack, and you're going to see, obviously I block because I know it's coming, and then she does massive damage. So I think it chunked everyone down to like 20% if they weren't blocking, which is, when the ads are out, it could possibly kill you. Yeah, in the terms of the mind control, I'm not sure if you can avoid it. Like, I'm not sure if it's like a dart, like where Tala was, where if you were dodging the dart, then she couldn't mind control you. I think that's a possibility, but she does it pretty frequently. Like, a lot of the times we had 3 players mind controlled, which would be kind of an issue in Elite. And I've seen groups where both tanks got mind controlled as well, so there's no limit on who can get mind controlled. The only way to break that, like I said, I don't know if the consumables work, but there's 2 little flowers on the sides. You'll see on a cogs come up on them. The only way to break the mind control is to go turn those cogs and then free the players. But the thing is, they don't come up immediately when you're mind controlled. So if you're mind controlled, it could be, we had 3 people mind controlled and those cogs still weren't up yet, and then the cogs came up and then we have to break them up. So don't think that like if you see one person mind control, the cog's going to come up at that moment. It kind of took a while for that to actually happen. And when you're in mind control, there's nothing you can do. Like there's as far as concerned, that we didn't find there was like a damage threshold. Like I know in Gotham City Zoo, if you did enough damage, it would break them out automatically. There's no like press any buttons while you're mind controlled. That's just not there. So as far as I know, you're just kind of stuck until you transform. So the other thing I should mention as well with the cogs, if you turn the cogs, you're going to turn into a spore. So as you can see on the left of me, that test Krieg guy, he's turned into a spore. So when you're in the spore, you can kind of instantly heal yourself. You've got basically 3 abilities. One's like a Vine Lash, one's a defibrillator icon, the other one's perfect poise animation, or perfect poise icon. So with that, the Vine Lash and defibrillator, I think it's more just for like distracting the sporelings, but in terms of the damage that you do, it's really inconsequential. You do like 10-15k damage hits out of it. So the thing is, you're stuck in that spore the entire time after you turn that cogs, because there's no way to break out of it, there's nowhere to detransform. So that one's a little bit confusing mechanic at the moment, especially in Elite. So because there's no way to detransform, so you want to make sure that it's either like a DPS doing it or like a role that you don't mind sacrificing. But you've got no choice, because the only way to break the mind control is to turn the cog, but the cog's going to turn you into a spore. The other thing I haven't mentioned so far is the Sporling ads. They'll come out once you turn the cogs as well, and you can kill them, but the thing is, especially in Elite, in regular the dot's not too bad, but if you're getting close to them, they put damage over time on you, and in Elite it ticks for 20k. So it's a serious dot in Elite that if they get near you, it's 20k, 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 20k. You do have to kill them right away, but the thing is, if you kill them right away, then they spawn 20 seconds later. So ideally what we've had is just a tank pulling all the sporelings to the back, and basically the tank is kiting just to survive, so they're not taking like, dot damage the entire time. So that's why you really need 2 tanks, because if you had a solo tank here, unless you're killing those sporelings instantly, which is what, if you see other videos on test server, they were doing, because they're exploiting the dual pistols. So obviously they don't have a problem killing the sporelings when they can do millions of damage. But on live server, that's not going to happen, and then after it was fixed, that's not going to happen either. So if you have all the sporelings close to Ivy, but with solo tanking, then you have everyone near. You have obviously the tank taking that massive damage from the spore dot, as well as all the players that are near them as well. So it becomes just separating the sporelings, kiting them. You can't really. The Chrono's worked on them, but they kind of break out the stuns pretty quick. Plus the spore dot is still there if you stun them. But in terms of that, it really just becomes into a bit lengthy of a fight. As you can see, this fight was 7 minutes and 19 seconds from start to finish for Poison Ivy. And a lot of it just has to do with her damage buff. Or not the damage buff, the defense buff. So in terms of the fight in regular, like I said, 6-7 minutes. There's no ways to speed it up that I can see, unless you can find a way to defense debuffer. Other than that, there's no readily apparent ways. There's a lot of mechanics going on in the fight, but in regular, if they're not too apparent, you can kind of get through it without having to worry about too much of the mechanics or focusing on them. Where in Elite, there's a much more focus on the mechanics, because obviously the spore damage is hugely increased. You can't be losing multiple players in Elite in terms of the mind control, her one-shot ability with her shield, and her reflectability. So it's going to be an interesting fight in Elite. In regular, it's kind of more straightforward. Okay, so that brings us to the first boss fight, where you're actually feeling like you're in a new DLC. This is where our first encounter with the Batman Who Laughs, as you can see here. So obviously new environment, nice cutscene. Batman and Superman are in danger, and we have to save them from this Jokerized Batman. So essentially this fight, it does cross into the kind of the long and tedious part. This fight itself, as you can see, is about 11 minutes long. It's more not so much a boss fight as it is a rally. So it might be disappointing to some of you. Obviously, this is because there's a Batman Metal Part 2 coming, so where you actually fight him. So essentially, you will need 2 tanks. One tank has to take the Batman Who Laughs just off to the side. Doesn't matter. You'll never see him again. The rest of the group is focused on the ads that eventually spawn in the waves, as well as the alloy mechanic. So as you can see here, cog comes up. You can see the text there which says deliver alloy to Spire to defeat Batman Who Laughs, 0 to 6. So you have to do this 6 times. Now, when you turn that cog, as you can see here, I think it... I don't think I go back to where it was. Yeah, rage and stuff. If you see his character, he's walking slower and slower and has that little like acid field around him. So the thing is, the more you walk with the alloy, the more damage you take over time, and the slower you get. So eventually, obviously, one player can't walk from the start to the finish because he's going to die. So basically, what you have to do is you have to get near a player, and then it gives you ability. You'll see it later in the clip because I carry just to kind of show you what it looks like. But basically, you have to transfer that alloy to another player so you can finish walking towards the spire to put it in. So in 2 people can do it, I think. I didn't have an issue. Basically, I think I turned the cog here. So I can see here I'm grounded, as well as I have that 1 power. So that basically that power gives me the power to transfer. So I can get healed in this. So once again, it's going to have to be just up the healer to spam heal over times or instants. But as you can see here, I'm slowly getting slower and slower. So I'm not going to, there's no way I can make it to the end there myself. So then you have to be a near player. I hit 1 to transfer the alloy, and then once again it's transferred to ace test, and he can finish walking. So as you can see there, I pretty much got 70% of the way myself, and then you just have to transfer. So it's one of those things where it might be a little bit tricky in pugs, because the pugs can't, because if a pug wanders off on you and you have nowhere to transfer it to, then you're dead. Because you'll die. You have to start the whole process again. So it's one of those things where you're going to have a DPS, because obviously you can't just have a healer doing it, and you can't have a controller. Well, you can have the controller doing it because you can put a power in between, but you can't have that roll keep dying. He's got to be able to transfer it to someone. So as you can see here, once you put a canister in, it starts the waves coming. So what the waves are the is it the Death Robins? Yeah, Death Robins. And then Red Death comes out as well. So Red Death is pretty much the exact same mechanics as Johnny Quick. He's going to teleport around, do his cyclone pull where you have to lunge him. He's just more annoying than anything else. The Dark Robins have some interesting pushback on them. As you can see here, I got pushback. I couldn't hit a power. I tried to break out, couldn't do anything to lunge forward. So it was kind of weird. It happened a bunch of times, and the tanks mentioned as well, because you can't really CC the Dark Robins. Essentially, you just have to kill them. You have to kill the Dark Robins, kill Red Death. Obviously, it's a bit annoying because Red Death's teleporting around. But this pushback CC from the Death Robins was it Death Robins or was it Dark Robins? Sorry, apologize. That's Dark Robins. So the CC from the Dark Robins was a bit annoying. As you can see right there, like I get pushed back, I break out, I'm just sitting there doing nothing. I can't lunge and wolf. So I'm not sure if it's specific just to wolf or it's to every character. And then the tanks mentioned that Dark Robins, you can't really CC them, you can't really pull them. You're just basically just there to draw aggro. And Red Death is annoying because he's going to teleport all around, but Red Death is the exact same mechanics as Johnny Quick. So everything that Johnny Quick does is what Red Death will do. So it's more just making sure that they're getting lunges properly. So the thing is, while this is all going on, the people still have to be carrying the alloy. So the thing is, you have one tank that's always on the Batman Who Laughs. He's going to survive. I did hear that you can't really do much mechanics on, like counter-wise on the Batman Who Laughs. So it's basically just that tank has to survive. He's on his own. I don't believe, certainly in regular, is not going to be enough damage to kill you. But the thing is, you have 3 Dark Robins and Red Death, and the other tank, and obviously the healer. And at that point, since you're fighting things, the controller can't really do it. So it becomes an issue where you're going to pretty much need 2 DPS to run that alloy. You could probably get away with the controller doing it, because you don't really, obviously, since these are like mini NPCs, you can't stun them or anything like that as a troll. But you're going to need either 2 DPS or a troll and a DPS to keep running that alloy. So if they stop to kill these NPCs, you're just wasting massive amounts of time, which I'm pretty sure happened here because the counter didn't really progress for a while. So it's a part that turns into a long fight. Like if you kill all the waves, don't run the alloy until all the waves are dead, then you're just kind of prolonging the fight. So it's meant to be, while the rest of the group is killing the ads, the NPC waves like the Dark Robins and Red Death, you're supposed to keep running the alloy so that you don't spend an extra 5 minutes in here, which is what I think we did here. Now that I'm kind of rewatching the footage, but obviously it's one of those things where you're gonna have to have like interesting kind of dynamic with pugs, because the Dark Robins keep respawning. As you can see there, they're coming through those multiverse portals, so they're going to keep spawning regardless. I don't believe Red Death respawn. Once we killed Red Death, he didn't respawn because I started focusing on him because he was super annoying and he kept pushing me back. So yeah, I don't believe Red Death respawned, but the Dark Robins kept coming. As you can saw there, Red Death's Dark Lightning hit me for 45k, so it's not like you can just sit and melee him the entire time. Actually, it was back to back. There's 42k and 45k. But other than that, it just becomes like this is the fight. This is what it is here. So you're carrying those 6 alloys to the end. You're just continuing to kill Dark Robins, and just to kind of, and then the other boss, the other tank is on the Batman Who Laughs. So it's, I don't know. From the perspective that this is going to be like the the build up to the new DLC. This is the first time we're actually encountering the Batman Who Laughs. This is kind of like the climax of this DLC episode. It's a little bit of a letdown from that aspect, where the fight's not really engaging at all. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on, but as you can see here, we're just standing around. After Red Death is dead, the Dark Robins are dead, we're just standing around chilling, waiting for the alloy to run. Because, we can't kill the Batman Who Laughs. It's like a Dr. Fate situation where you could do damage to him, but you're not going to kill him at all. He has infinite health. So you're off to the side. You're just standing around here chilling, running the alloy. So in terms of, like, I understand this is like part 1, so we're going to have part 2 where actually we have to kill him, and that could be more interesting from a storyline perspective and more like engaging. But in terms of, I wouldn't even say, like, the Poison Ivy fight had more mechanics, quotation marks, than this, because there's no mechanics here. It's just you're running the alloy 6 times back to start from back to the spire, and you're killing the ads that spawn. So essentially that's all you're doing. I wouldn't say it's mechanics. Oh, at this point the Merciless comes out. I forgot that. So once Red Death is dead, you kill some of the Dark Robins. I'm not sure if they come out a third time. But that's when the Merciless comes out. The Merciless is a boss from False Idols, which you'll come into. He's the final boss in False Idols. So he comes out, and then you're essentially just killing him. He's got some new attacks. He's got that Whirlwind one, so you can't really melee him. But I was in close to melee range. Wasn't taking a lot of damage. But yeah, once again, he comes out. But the thing is, the fight ends when you get those 6 alloys. So you don't have to kill the Merciless even. Oh yeah, the Dark Multiverse portals open, so that'd be more Dark Robin. So yeah, so anytime you see like the Multiverse portals open, that's just, that's more Dark Robins coming in terms of a tank perspective. Once again, he's got like a melee ground and pound AoE attack there. But it's the thing is where if your group is quick running the alloys, then that's it. As you'll see here, when they run that final alloy, the Merciless isn't dead. The fight just ends. I'm not sure if there's like hashtag spoiler warning or anything. But big spoiler attack when you run the alloys, the fight just ends. So that's coming up here. We'll kind of wait till this to play out a little bit. But yeah, it's, as far as the Merciless and even Red Death, like, you don't have to kill Red Death, or obviously you want to kill them just so they're not a danger anymore. But it just, this fight revolves around all the importance completely is on running the alloy. This group, obviously, since a lot of people are in for this for the first time, even I was in this for the first time, so I wasn't sure the importance on that. But the importance is not on DPS, because yes, you can kill these ads, but you don't have to. The Batman Who Laughs can't be defeated, so he's just kind of off to the side. This fight completely is around the alloys. So I can see there, he put the alloy in, fight ended. Merciless was still like 20%. Batman Who Laughs we hadn't even touched yet, and the raid's over. So obviously this is going to be, like I said, a build up to part 2 where we actually have to fight him, and like possibly like a FOSS 3 situation or like a Darkseid situation. But that's essentially it. All the importance is running the alloy. So it's an 11-minute fight. If we run around the alloys like start to finish right away, we probably could have cut down like probably 5 minutes, because we were having those 2 DPS break apart. In terms of fighting the ads that came out. But once again, as you saw there, you don't have to kill any of them. They're just there to distract you from running the alloy. But all the importance is on running the alloy. So kind of let this play out as well. You'll see at the end, I got the headline for beating Elite. This is regular. I'm not sure why I popped both headlines. There's just a bug on test. But as you can see here, then I'm sure it's not what we were all expecting as a finale, but once again, we just have to understand this is part 1, so part 2 is kind of like the conclusion for all this. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I actually ended up talking for the entire 30 minutes. But I'll bring you the other raid, False Idols. Just got to get some footage for that one that doesn't have a whole bunch of wipes in it. But take care, guys. Thanks for watching.